Welcome to Redtastic. Story 1. I'm 33 female, married, no kids, living in a different state from my family. Growing up, my parents always prioritized my older brother, 36 male. They said it was because he was sick in the head, but he was never formally diagnosed with anything. They coddled him endlessly and let him get away with things that I never could. He would throw tantrums well into adulthood, skip out on jobs, blame everyone else when things went wrong, and my parents would just clean up after him. I was basically invisible unless they needed something from me. A few years ago, I moved out of state for a job and eventually got married. My parents didn't come to the wedding because my brother had an episode the week before and they didn't want to leave him alone while he was in that state. Never mind that they had had over a year's notice. It hurt, but I got over it. I didn't really speak to them much after that, except during major holidays or if they initiated contact. Last year, out of nowhere, my brother reached out, said he was strapped for cash and behind on his car payments and his kids' school fees. I sent him some money, but not as much as he asked. He got passive-aggressive with me over text, saying things like, "Thanks for the crumbs." I didn't reply. Then earlier this year, he tried again, saying he needed more money because his hours got cut and he was drowning. I talked to my husband about it, and he was firm that my brother could be lying and we shouldn't enable him. I agreed and I blocked my brother. Around that same time, my dad had a work-related injury. Nothing major, but enough that he developed chronic pain that aggravated at work, or so I was told. He's 65, and I figured it was about time he slowed down anyway. I started sending them a monthly amount to help with groceries and bills. They lived frugally anyway. My husband was okay with that since it was for my parents. Fast forward to last week. I was on the phone with my mom and she slipped up and said something about my dad heading to work. I asked what she meant and she tried to brush it off. After pressing her, she admitted that my dad didn't really quit working and the money I was sending was mostly going to help my brother. Apparently, his kid just got braces and my brother is still having a hard time, so she thought I would understand. She knew I wouldn't give the money directly to my brother, so she didn't tell me. I was livid. I told her I was done sending anything. I'm not going to keep funding my brother's irresponsibility through them. She tried to guilt me, saying he's your brother and he's just struggling right now. But I've heard that for 3 decades, this man has always been struggling. He's never been responsible. He got his side piece pregnant at 20, not his girlfriend. He bounces between jobs, has kids he can't afford, constantly mooches off my parents, and now, apparently, off of me without my consent. Now things are tense. My mom's barely speaking to me. My dad hasn't called at all. I feel kind of bad. But at the same time, I'm angry. My husband says I'm completely justified and that this was always going to happen. That my parents have never seen me as anything other than the second priority behind my brother. But now a small part of me is wondering if I overreacted. My parents are getting older. Maybe I should have just reduced the money instead of cutting it off entirely. You're not the a-hole OP, and you did the right thing by not sending your folks any more money. Your husband was right. If they truly cared for you, they wouldn't totally stop talking to you over this. Their top priority is your brother, which sucks. But you don't have to share that responsibility with them, especially if it's not yours to share to begin with. He's a grown man who is capable of taking care of himself. Even if he truly had any mental issues, your parents' coddling and enabling have turned him into an asshole who appreciates nothing. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for how I handled this situation with my daughter-in-law? Just for context, I share a house with my husband, son, and his wife and kids. This was a situation we entered out of financial necessity. I know my daughter-in-law was not a fan of the arrangement, but there really was no choice. This resentment she has about the living situation may contribute to her behavior, but I'm not sure. She has always been a quiet and reserved person who stayed mostly to her part of the house and only came upstairs to use the shared kitchen. I want to see my grandchildren, so I will often come down to visit with them or to do laundry. Even when I come down, she seems disinterested in talking to me and sort of hides away until I leave. Anyway, I have been noticing more and more that there will be laundry still in the dryer when I come down to do laundry, or she will have baskets of laundry on the counter or floor. The basket is never empty. I have never gone in there and seen everything washed, dried, and put away. I also noticed that she would leave heavily soiled dishes to soak and forget to come back to them until the next morning, or she would run the dishwasher and not unload it in a timely fashion. I got fed up today and I put the dirty dishes in a bucket and the clean ones that were in the dishwasher in a box. I also pulled their laundry out of the dryer and put it in a basket so I could do mine. Although it was still wet, I had just had it. When my son came home, he noticed these things and lit into me, calling me passive-aggressive and giving me a sob story about how his wife has had a kidney infection, and between her health and their 2 young kids, she has had trouble keeping up with housework. I told him that his wife is essentially a lazy 16-year-old who can't handle any responsibilities. He didn't take kindly to hearing this, and now his wife won't speak to me because he told her what I said. Am I the a-hole? My son thinks so. I think that his wife needs to step up and use the energy she puts into primping into more practical tasks. You're the a-hole, OP. You seem very uncaring too. How could you see your daughter-in-law healing from a kidney infection as a sob story and something she should just get over? Anyone with empathy would know that healing from a surgery and caring for 2 young kids is hard, and they would offer help instead of calling people lazy. If your daughter-in-law didn't have a problem with you before, she definitely does now, and you deserve it. Your attitude towards her sucks, and I hope you realize that and get better at being a good mother-in-law. Now for some comments. You're the a-hole. You're constantly invading their space. I imagine it doesn't feel like a home to her. Why are you living with them anyways? I know you've said it was for financial reasons. Who's the one that needed this arrangement? Set up a scheduled time to do laundry and to see the kids. I'm assuming they can come to your part of the house freely. Give her some space or help out. There's literally nothing wrong with leaving dishes overnight. The world doesn't end. Same goes with laundry. As long as everyone is fed, clean and happy, the rest isn't a massive problem. You're the a-hole, big time. You know what's lazy and childish? Passive-aggressive bullshit that solves nothing and makes everything worse. And insulting her to her husband, mocking an extremely painful illness? Are you serious? Take it from someone whose in-laws haven't so much as spoken to 3 of my 4 kids on the phone because my husband and I won't allow it, in part due to behavior like this. Back off, grow up, and stay in your lane. You are his mother by happenstance. She is his wife by choice. He made a vow to her that he never made to you. You're the a-hole. I'm often the one to get annoyed about chores not being done in a timely manner, but whether you knew prior or not, your daughter-in-law has a lot on her plate given what your son described. Instead of being passive-aggressive, would it have hurt you to try and talk it out with her before tampering with all her things? Also, you don't go into the details, but was this their home that you and your husband moved into, or vice versa? The answer to that question plays a major part in your level of assholery. But either way, you're all cohabiting now and need to discuss expectations and grievances like the grown adults that you are. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for wanting to be involved in my granddaughter's lives? My son walked out on our family the day he turned 18. He valued his girlfriend over his family and decided to move in with her parents, and they took on all of his finances. I never liked this girl. I have many reasons why. But that's not the point of this new issue. I have had no contact with my son in 15 years. But my mother-in-law does, and I hear information about him through her. He is still with the girl that took him away from me. They got married at 22 and had a $30,000 wedding that I wasn't invited to. They own a $10 million mansion in a Washington, D.C. suburb, and they both have really good jobs. His wife's parents paid for him to go to private university with her, and they both have advanced degrees in a selective field. He also has triplet daughters. They're 7, and according to my mother-in-law, they're the most well-behaved, beautiful, intelligent children to ever grace the face of the earth. They go to an elite private school and are undoubtedly spoiled. That was one of the reasons I hate his wife. She is spoiled. People try to argue that she's very grateful for everything she's been given, so she's not that bad. But I feel like any child who was never told no and got everything they ever wanted is a horrible adult to be around. Anyway, I had my mother-in-law give me their address from the Christmas card they sent to her, and I drove down there over the weekend. As soon as my son's wife saw me, she locked me out and screamed for my son to deal with this. I got a glimpse of one of my granddaughters as my son opened the door. My son told me that I had to leave as I was trespassing on his property. I told him that I have the right to know my granddaughters. He said, "You don't have granddaughters. I have daughters." We went back and forth for half an hour. I was adamant that I wouldn't leave without meeting them. I heard his wife say, "If that woman so much as lays eyes on our babies, I will." I couldn't hear the rest. That sounds like a threat, and I think if the police get involved, I can use that against her. I want to file for grandparents' rights for visitations if my son doesn't let me have a relationship with my granddaughters. I told him this, and he called me all kinds of names, including a-hole. It's not a-holish behavior to want a relationship with my own flesh and blood. And it's not a-holish behavior to use legal means to get it if my son won't give it to me. Now for some comments. You're the a-hole. There's a very materialistic slant to the story. The way you assume they're spoiled, you're just turning up instead of trying to arrange a meeting, and then you want to bring legal trouble to coerce a relationship. That is not in the granddaughter's best interest, which should be your top priority. Drop the chip on your shoulder and send them a nice message that you deeply regret what happened and would love to get to know them at their convenience, or just give up. You're the a-hole. Can you imagine how terrified you made those children? A stranger showing up at their front door demanding to see them? Why would you think that would be a good first impression? You already decided you don't like these girls. Why do you even want to get to know them? Because they are living happy lives without you and you want to poison that? Clearly your son made the right choice with his wife and a family. He has excellent judgment. It's a blessing your desire to control him didn't ruin his future happiness. No judge will grant you visitation of children you've never met. You're the a-hole like so many times over. You opted out of a relationship with your son because of your perceptions of his girlfriend. His girlfriend's family took him in and cared for him the way that you ideally should have. You have opted out of a relationship with any children that your son has. I don't know what grandparent visitation laws exist in the state your son lives in, but I'm going to take a wild guess that they aren't going to be in your favor, and you are just going to spend a lot of money on nothing. Just accept that you effed up, and if you are lucky, you will get secondhand stories about your grandchildren for the rest of your life. If you are unlucky, your mother-in-law will stop telling you about them after she hears what you did.